Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patty Lapone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
The show to the history mix, switching up the flow as we add the prefix. Everybody knows that we used to be six wives.
Welcome to the Theater Podcast, intimate personal conversations with theater's biggest names. This is entering the final week of May, which means that our Quarren Queen takeover is just about to wrap up. So if you haven't already, please rewind a couple episodes, as in just scroll back up your phone and listen to the previous episodes. We've got 6 already released in May with various queens from the Broadway cast and the Australian cast. And so this episode continues with Broadway. We're back in New York with Brittney Mack, who is Anna of Cleves in the Broadway cast. She is so much fun to talk to. Seriously, she's like metaphorically the light in an otherwise dark room. She is originally from Chicago and still, ironically, is here in New York. She didn't leave in the midst of quarantine, and she's here waiting for her Broadway debut, like many of the others from the cast. I'm really excited to share this with you. You can watch the video of this interview by visiting ttp.fm/Patreon. That's Patreon. And along with this interview, you can get all of the 6 Queens interviews, which are also on video. So if you don't want to listen on audio, visual is the way to go. That's how you can get it. Please find me online on Instagram and Twitter at theater_podcast. You can find me on the web at thetheaterpodcast.com. And now everybody, please enjoy this episode with Brittney Mack.
Listen up, let me tell you a story. A story that you think you've heard before. We know you know our names and our fame and our faces. Know all about the glories and the disgraces.
With theater credits including Rent, The Wiz, Hairspray, Avenue Q, Shrek the Musical, In the Heights, and Little Shop of Horrors, my guest today was recently starring in 6 as Anna of Cleves in the North American tour and is now reprising the same role, making her Broadway debut. Brittney Mack, welcome to the Theater Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Wow, I made myself exhausted.
Well, we were just saying before we started recording that, like, you're still doing a bunch of stuff. Like, you got time, but you're really busy doing things. Like, I hate starting out every interview right now with being like, what are you doing in quarantine? But we can't ignore it, you know? Like, it's part of our everyday life right now.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. It's like when we started quarantine, it was kind of like, well, what am I going to do? And that question was answered. You know, you just be careful what you ask, period. People say, well, be careful what you ask for. Just be careful what you ask, because all of a sudden it was request after request. Can you do this? Can you film this? Can you talk about this? Can you do this interview? And you know, there's a little bit of pressure being, Broadway debut, blah, 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 blah. You're like, okay, yeah. You feel like you have to do everything, especially because it was our opening night when the lights went down on Broadway. And so everyone kind of really wants to know what that felt like. But how did you guys feel? Because it was your opening night and all these things. And so it's very interesting now. The requests have slowed down, just because you got to say no. You know, you got to say no for your mental clarity and just because we are in self-quarantine, like, it's actually a really good time to kind of focus on yourself and heal and do all these things. So, but I have been doing master classes and workshops and all types of things. So it's a nice balance now. That's
really good. I think I was just talking with somebody else about this the other day. It was actually Mark Kudish. I was talking to him. His episode will come out next month. But Mark was saying that, like, the industry can't go back to what it was. There's no way that we can go back to what it was. Because what wasn't working. But then at the same time, theater is all about it's all about socialization. It's all about coming together and telling a story. So are people going to start now writing things for Zoom, for Google Hangouts, for Skype? Like, what's the new performing going to look like?
It's so interesting. I can tell I'm a, public broadcast kid, so grew up with PBS and PBS and WTTW and things like that. I'm from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And so public radio and all of that stuff is such a big deal. And I must say, one of my favorite things was being able to listen to late night story time. And, when you used to listen to full stories and like plays or, on the radio. And when I tell you, it was one of the most exhilarating things and I think kind of helped spark imagination. And then you start to, color and do all these things just with your mind. And so I must say that I think I would be thrilled if that kind of came back, radio hour and things like that. There was this one show on what was it called? On V103 called It's Your World. And it was the Tom Joyner Morning Show. And it was like a Black soap opera novella. And the stakes were so high. And it was on at like 5 a.m. And I used to get up really early for school. And I used to wait to leave out to listen to this show on the radio. And they had a theme song and I loved it and I still know it. And I think that theater and I think the entertainment industry, live entertainment I think it will be a mix. I think we can't not be on stage. We can't not have Broadway. I just think there is a smarter way to kind of go about it health-wise. I think we will just have to do things that will, because you can't necessarily ensure safety, but you can show the acts of trying to, and say, hey, like as a theater, this is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. As a company, this is what we're doing. We've got sanitizer machines. We've got this, whatever it is we can try to do to make people feel safe. And then I think we can add some of those elements back, radio and story time and all of those different things in order to kind of broaden, I think, the industry. And it will actually, I think, create a little more work. So it might be good.
I completely agree with you. I've been on the producing end now of 2 original radio plays that were recorded entirely in quarantine. So like that's working, and the team that I'm working with, we're already working on another project that's going to be ongoing, like a radio play soap opera. It's going to be very, very cool. So like it's going to be out there, and like these microphones that I'm talking into, you can't find them anymore. They're so hard to find because everybody needs them. Everybody's doing VO work at home. Right. I completely agree that it's got to be some sort of hybrid. And I actually heard earlier today that that the theater wing is working with theater owners now to like start to talk about the air quality safety measures that they can retrofit into theaters. So when you do have a full house, that you make sure your air is getting circulated and sanitized at the same time. So there's all sorts of like technology changes and everything that that's going to happen. So, but where are you now? Are you still in New York?
Yes, I am still in New York. I live uptown. I have a really nice apartment that, I figured if I'm still paying for it, I should be in it. So I am here and I am on the adoption waiting list for a dog with Heart and Bone Rescue because I love their work. And so it's been a very long waiting process, but I am patient. I am going to get a dog.
I'll probably offend somebody by saying this. The process to adopt anything, child or animal, is so much harder than just going out and making your own.
You know what? You know what? Let me tell you. Here's the wow, the gag is my mom adopted my 3 cousins.
Oh, really?
Okay, so growing up. Yes. So I know about all of that. My mom adopted my 3 cousins. So I have there's 5 of us. legally, but biologically, it's just my brother and I. So that's one of the hardest things I think still being in New York is like not being able to talk to my brothers and sisters and my nieces and nephews, especially Noah, because Noah is very musical.
Mm-hmm.
So we were working on his rendition of You're Welcome from Moana before I left. So he should be perfect by the time I get back.
Well, so tell me about Chicago though. Growing up there, you were born there?
I was born and raised on the South Side and the South suburbs of Chicago. Raised by a single parent with an incredible tribe of friends. My mom is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. I never forget, I was younger and she said, pardon me, or I said, Mom, I want to be Gary Coleman and Shirley Temple when I grow up. I never forget it. Excuse me. I never forget it. It was just like plain and simple, straight to the point. And she just looked at me and she said, okay, you could do that. And it's been a ride ever since. Like, she never told me that I couldn't. And now, mind you, like I said, I'm one of 5. So she never told any of us that we couldn't. She never told any of us that we shouldn't. She was like, great, now how much is this going to cost? Okay, we can't do that. But here's what we're going to try to do to try to make that same dream happen. So if we were going to do something, we were going to be excellent at it because we wanted to be, not because there were pressures, which then helped you excel and succeed. And then the scholarships came and all of these things. So then the money stuff wasn't so much of a heavy weight, still a weight, but not so heavy. So because we wanted to do what we did, we worked hard at it. So we had scholarships and different things. So I went to Chicago Academy for the Arts, college preparatory high school, not to be confused with Shy Arts, where I had an incredible education in the arts, and I don't know where I'd be without the staff there. I went to from there I went to AMDA in LA and New York. I had to take a year off because academically, words are hard, and counting is difficult if it's not green money. So I was like, I wasn't a brain. I was very average when it came to schooling. So I was like, okay, I'll take a year off. And I worked really, really hard, saved up quite a bit of money, and then was able to pay for my first year at AMDA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then went on to New York, and then was able to kind of, from there, start my career.
So you moved, well, I was going to bring this up later, but I was looking through your Instagram feed and it said January 18th this year, you posted like a goodbye party graphic somebody made for you that was like, she's finally moving to New York and going to do the whole thing. So, but you'd been in New York then before that, before June. Before this year, yeah. It's funny to see, to have been coming back and forth and to see a lot of friends that I've been able to work with, that I've had the honor and pleasure to work with on different Broadway shows and different platforms all over the world. But yes, I lived here. When I first moved to New York, I lived on 144th Street. And I think it was 549 East 144th Street is where I lived on Broadway. And man, it was rough. I was at 168th in Amsterdam, 170th in Amsterdam. I got on the 168th Street A stop. Mm-hmm. That's what it was. Oh yeah, I remember. I know that neighborhood.
Man, it was. I mean, now it's like super cute and trendy, but like, whoo, man, I got shot by I got paintball gunned.
I was like, you got shot.
By a paintball gun. I was like, let me rephrase that. I was like, this is not Chicago. What is happening? Paintballs, little rascals. And I found out who it was too. The kids, I found out who they were because they told me. Yeah, we the one shot you. I was like, great, thanks guys with the paint. Love that. So welcome to New York.
Ruined
Yeah,
a
man. I've been
perfectly
here for a
good
while.
shirt.
I've been here for a while. I know, right? I've been here for a while, back and forth out of the city. And so it's one of those things. It's like, welcome back to New York. And it's so expensive to be here. I was like, you know what? I can't go back to New York unless a gig brings me back, unless Broadway is like, hey, it's Broadway. You know, everybody pretends that like, oh, it's Broadway calling when it's like 212 or something. And Broadway did call. And I was like, oh, ha, okay. So it was kind of like that.
Obviously you came back here for 6, and I apologize. I left out the national tour of Memphis in the intro. Completely skipped over that here. So yeah. So where you were auditioning here, you were in AMDA auditioning here, and then so Memphis happened, and did you come back to New York after that, or how did you get involved with the tour of 6?
Well, believe it or not, Memphis had a lot of my work. What you find is when you mature in the industry, if you would, which probably literally only takes 2 years because you're like, I am tired of this. How do you do it better? When you start to ask yourself that question, I was also one of those artists that was super blessed to like always work. If you ask people that I went to school with, they're like, oh, Brittney Mack, oh, that girl stays working. She works constantly back to back to back contracts. One of the reasons is because I didn't have anywhere to live. So you had to secure, your contracts help you secure where you were going to stay because my things were in storage in the Bronx. So I was like, okay, I would come back, I would swap out some clothes from the storage bin and then leave and head out. So I had a contract on Royal Caribbean, and my grandfather got sick. And then I moved back to Chicago. I went back to Chicago, and he passed. And then I moved back officially right after. My grandma was like, I just feel like I want all my grandbabies here, and I just need everybody close to me right now. So whatever she said.
I'm going to interrupt for a second. You need to put together your own cabaret show where you play every character in your family.
I'm working on that, actually. We'll chat.
That's like an Eddie Murphy, The Clumps sort of radio play right there in the making.
My grandmother is she's just the highest stakes all the time, but like sleep. So you're just like, what is happening?
Man, I just need all my family close to me.
Like, I need everybody. Okay, Brissy is Brissy, Brissy, Brissy. That's my name. So I said, oh, okay, Grandma. So I moved back officially. From there, that's when I kept working. So I booked Memphis from Chicago, actually. I came in. Bob Klein is the bomb. Everybody loves Bob. He's so funny. And he's cool and like just super easy to kind of audition for. So I went in for him. I did it. It was actually, I did a fill on the tour is how it happened. Someone hurt themselves and they were like, hey, Brittney, you'll be here tomorrow. I was like, where is here? Mississippi. I was like, oh, great. I can see my granny. So yeah, met the cast in Mississippi. It was everyone was so wonderful and welcoming. And we went on from there. So I got with 6. I'm back. I'm still in Chicago, right? I've worked still. I'm a regional theater baby. I love regional theater. I just thank God for them because without them, like, where do we get to continue to shape and mold and hone our craft? So keep theater alive, and especially regional theaters. So I'm working. Then I get this gig at City Winery Chicago. I am really good at it. Who knew? I was so good at drinking wine. And then, selling wine.
Drinking, yeah, okay.
Selling wine, jeez. So then I go on auditions. It's audition season in Chicago. They're like, hey, I'm like, okay, I'm equity. It's Chicago. It's not going to take long, right? Like, it's fine. 8 auditions in one day. And I went on big auditions. I was like, I don't know who I thought I was that day. I was like, I got this. I could do this or whatever. So I'm like at Steppenwolf. I'm like and they're like, are you from Chicago? And I'm like, yeah. How? You've never been in for us before? I was like, no, I was too scared. So, but here I am. Because you are Steppenwolf. You know that, right? You do. You know, it doesn't matter. The point is, my monologue is from. And so I do my monologue, and it's great. Then I go somewhere else and somewhere else and somewhere else. 8th audition of the day was for Chicago Shakespeare Theater. And I saw that they were doing The Wizard of Oz. I'm just going in for the generals, for their season call. I was like, ooh, The Wizard of Oz. Yes, I'm a shoo-in. I'm like 4'3". I'm 4'11", actually, but like it's fine. It's like the one day I say I'm shorter. And so I was like, yeah, I'm like 4'8". It's cool. I'm doing this. I go in the room. Bob is in there. Diego's in there. And I'm like, hey, I sing my song, and I slammed it. I was like, oh, felt good. Consider it booked. He was like, I was like, I also like hadn't eaten anything. I was like, I don't know what I was on that day. But I hit on my power lipstick. So I think that's what did it.
Just running on adrenaline all day.
I'm telling you. Whoo. So I go in, I'm like, oh, nailed it. And then he was sitting there. He was so blank. Bob is so cute, but he's like smiling. And he was like, Brittney. I was like, yes, that was great. I was like, thank you. Do you have anything else? I was like, huh? I can't hear you. Do you have anything else? I was like, okay. Yeah. You didn't like that? That wasn't, I thought, was that okay? That was great. I was like, okay, cool. I was just checking because. So then I go the accompanist. So I sing 2 more songs for him. I sang a Tina Turner song and some Motown song. So I said, okay, cool. Leave. I get an email. Hey, we want you to come back in, sing a pop song. I was like, ooh, I don't do pop. Auditions after auditions after auditions. It wasn't until I think the 4th audition when I got like material that I even knew what I was auditioning for.
Did you know about 6 at all before that?
Literally nothing.
Huh.
Yep.
All right. That's nuts.
I know. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing.
So were they considering you for the Chicago production at this time?
Yes. So the audition was strictly just for what we find out later is that this contract was for Chicago Shakespeare Theater's production of 6. And then you would also have to do the Citadel's production of the 6, which is in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Uh-huh. So they were the same contract initially, if you would. So I said, okay, okay, cool. I had not, you know what? I have to say, I think now looking back on it, I am so, when people are like, hashtag grateful, hashtag gratitude, all of that I didn't know about the show. Because I think it would have added a certain amount of pressure that I think kind of gets in the way a lot of times when people know how big something is or the weight of something, right? And so I was just like aloof. I had no idea I was just like, oh my God, this is nice. Guys, this theater is nice. So I'm doing the things. We're in the audition. I get a call back for Anne Boleyn, for Don't Lose Your Head, and for Anna of Cleves, Get Down. Don't Lose Your Head, I was like, I don't know what she's talking about. She's very angsty. I don't know what this child is talking about. What is she? Okay. So by the time I get it, of course, I had seen The Tudors, right? The show.
Yeah, that's all I'd ever known about it.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, that was a great show.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I knew about Anne Boleyn. I knew about Catherine of Aragon from research that I had done about Spain for school. And then La La La. So, but to come back and look at this story through a pop concert lens, the way the audition process happened, like it was an experience like none other. And I'm pretty sure I will never have an audition experience like that ever again. It was incredible.
What did they have you do that was different from your normal auditions then?
We all auditioned together.
Right. Yes. The other ladies have said that. Yeah, you auditioned for each other.
Yes. And so we were each other's background. So for people who've seen it, and we're like backing each other up, that's what we did in the room. The whole panel was there. Everyone was there the whole time. And one of my favorite things to do, I really like doing review shows like All Night Strut and Ain't Misbehavin' and those type of shows, Beehive, those type of shows, because of the connection you get to have with the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what wall? I'm looking straight at you and they're like, is she looking? And I'm like, I'm looking. So I have a good time doing those things. So in this particular audition, they were like, yeah, there's nobody up here. We want you to look at us, sing to us, perform to us, tell us a story. And I was like, let's do this. So that was a lot of fun. And then, so you're in the room. I'm in the room with Andrea Mackisat, Sam Polly, Anna Uzele, and aside from a handful of us, Andrea was the only one there from Canada out of her entire audition. You've got, Broadway people. You've got Catherine there. You got, Adriana Hicks there. Anna has been on Once on This Island. You've got Broadway queens there. And then you've got people who've got nice experience, regional experience, and been on tour and a substantial resume, if I do say so myself. And then you just get so many ranges of wonderful, incredible queens there and artists and performers that it was a blast being in the room. So for once, you didn't have to be at the door like, now how did she do that last riff? You were like, You were right there. So you had no choice but to be yourself, hopefully. And what we found out later is that was one of the biggest part, that I guess you can say a huge percentage of the audition was how we supported each other. I never forget, Andrea goes up and just little and cute with these boots on that are taller than her with this side ponytail. And and her hair was in a bun first, and then she took it down and whoosh, like abracadabra her hair to this ponytail thing. And she whips it to the side, and this eyebrow goes up, and she starts the song. And I literally was like, you better sing. All of the Chicago in me came out. And I was like, no, Brittney, this is Broadway. You need to calm down. You need to relax. I could not, because she was stellar. And again, later, doing the shows and blah, 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 they're like, Brittney, we'll never forget your reaction to Andrea, because that is the kind of support that women need. Various and different levels, but unapologetic. You were just like, blah! And then you were like, ooh, sorry, in the middle of her song. And I was like, I'm sorry, y'all. They were like, no, it's part of what we love about you. So that audition process was nuts. It was nuts.
Yeah, I've never heard anything like that before, where they get everybody together and want to see. That's just incredible. And the show itself is set up to be a concert performance where you are as much on stage for the other people as you are to sing your own solo.
Yep.
And it's just this incredible kind of combination of everything that's happening, with women's empowerment and history and colorblind casting, and ranges the gamut of everything positive that we need right now. And I think, I haven't asked you yet, how did it feel to lose your opening night to quarantine? I don't think you have. I think it got postponed, and it's going to be built up, and it's going to be better when it comes back. It's going to be better than it would have been otherwise. So #blessed, right?
#blessed. My sentiments exactly. That's exactly how I felt. So I was like, oh, okay. Okay, cool. We'll be back.
Plus you get some time off, rest the voce.
Rest my knee. I actually injured. I had an injury from the show, and so it's a nice rest. And the thing is, though, now it's like, okay, you guys are rested. Here we go. I'm glad everyone's good. We're good. Cool. So here's our schedule. So, and I can't wait, man. I'm looking forward to it, and to be back on the stage with those women. They're so incredible, and I've learned so much from them, and we're just so eager to share it with everyone, to share it with New York. We've been all over. We've had return friends come from Canada, come from Boston. We tore Boston up. I'm not gonna lie. We went there and shut it down. Working with Diane Pop, like being in that space, where some incredible work has come out of that space as well. Knowing what she's working on, what she's doing with 1776, like I'm excited, and I think it goes back to what I think what you were talking about our industry changing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's yes, how we do it, but also what we're doing. And why we're doing what we're doing. That it doesn't so much have to be big production, big colors, big like it's something how if you take, for example, like The Color Purple, how the original Color Purple did an incredible storytelling, bringing this story to life, bringing the book to life. It was a wonderful mesh of the book and the movie and LaChance and Renee, and it was such an incredible cast. And then it closes. Then you have the revival come back, which came back relatively quickly in my brain, but it was a completely different show. And I had friends in that show too. I saw a dear friend of mine, Jenny Harney, make her Broadway debut in that show. And she just had a baby.
Aww.
And so I just seeing her tell this story that I know so well, that Broadway has seen before, but has seen it's now stripped, and it's not so much colors and what you would think big production or anything. Now you just got the story and the characters. And what is it that we're talking about? What is it that we're saying here? What do we want to do with this work? And so I think there's a challenge coming that will allow new writers and new creators to come to the forefront of like saying like, here's some work that I have, and no, it's not big production, but like it gets to your heartstrings, and this is what we're saying, and this is what we're doing. And I'm excited. I'm excited about that, especially coming back into theater and things like that. I'm excited about that.
I was just drawing a very interesting parallel in my mind to something that I heard somebody else say last night. It's a single gay man living in quarantine in Texas with his parents, and he's dating. He's going on online dates, like Zoom dates, and he was very candid, and he was saying like, if it was in person and you have like real chemistry with somebody, like second, third, fourth, fifth date, like you're probably going to go sleep with that person, and because you're there and you're physical and you want to just be closer to them, but because of the physical separation, because of the inability to show up to the same place together, it's kind of turned into a Love Is Blind sort of scenario where you're forced to pay attention to the substance versus the visuals. And so they were.
I see it.
So they were. So he was like, yeah, like third Zoom date. We're talking about like, do you want to have kids together? On a third Zoom date, if we were in New York, we would have been sleeping together. Like that wouldn't have come up in person.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I totally get that. When you're forced, man, you take. Oh, this is such a paradox because we as a culture, as a race, need human contact. We are a herd species.
Yes.
But we're so much more intellectual without it.
We are. You know what's funny? Bringing up, you could cut this, whatever, but we're just chatting. The dating thing, like, because I was like, I ain't got nothing else to do. And I'm single, so I'm like, all right. And there's only one app that I've ever used because I'm scared of everything else because I'm a chicken. And I like this app. And so I'm on it, and it's funny. You'd be surprised how men, like, or even me the other day, but like, don't know what to say. Like you run out of things to say because in my brain, I'm like, is this too much to discuss? Because technically we've only been talking for like 2 days. So, but like, what else am I going to talk about? But like, I'm going to ask you about everything except your social security number at this point. Like, because what else? Because why not? And then you really get down to the meat of, like you said, it's a Love Is Blind situation. Like, do you want to have kids? What do you want to do? What are your aspirations? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, and it's funny because in our culture, those questions, for whatever reason, have become generic. They have become this way of being like, yeah, it's like, I wasn't going to ask him where you see yourself in 5 years. Why is that a terrible question to ask? Why would you waste your time in any other way? What if your 5 years and his 5 years don't line up, And so it's an interesting, that is very true. And it's just this wonderful, it's like a huge reset. It's like someone saw a button and was like, the big red button, and pushed it. And like everyone has now been reset to like the same plane, the same exact level. And now what are we going to do with it? We have the choice to rebuild in such an incredible way and to like bring back human decency and courtesy and kindness. During this time, I have not heard more people say, excuse me, than now. Oh, excuse me. Oh, okay. And being from Chicago, you see somebody, hey, how you doing? All right, have a good day. You need some help? You all right? Okay. Because it's full of Southern city people. So everyone migrated from the South, so we still have very Southern ways about us. So, you check on your elders. You do those things. If I see, it's in my nature, if I see, someone's abuela down the street that's like struggling with her card, I'm going to help her with her card. So it's not a question. It's just second nature to me. So, but now you're seeing that more. You're seeing more compassion. You're seeing more manners. And you're seeing just basic human decency, I think, and people taking in things that maybe had lost its value. Time. It's the greatest thing that you don't get back. So why would you ever take that for granted? But I think we started to. So, yeah.
Well, everything became a lot more convenient now with the internet and social media, and you can just do anything right there in your pocket, and take your phone with you, take your computer with you. So I mean, as an economy, as a global economy, like we're functioning on the internet now for the most part, which is a necessity. But I'm totally with you. Like, I love the level of support. Like, my neighborhood is bringing donations together to like leave food and supplies for the people who live at the YWCA around the corner.
Yeah.
And it's just like you when you slow down and you don't, like, even just not commuting right now. Slow down for a second, and you can like look up and see who's around you.
Yeah.
Like one of my things that I tell this to people whenever I can. I'm like, when you get in an elevator, don't get on your phone. Like, look up and see who's in the elevator with you. You never know. Especially in New York City, you never know who you're riding the elevator with. Make eye contact. Hold the door for them. Make sure that you can press their button. One of my biggest pet peeves. God, we are so far off on a tangent. I don't care. Is like somebody standing right in front of the buttons with headphones on their phone, and I'm like, excuse me, let me get my hand in there to like not touch you and touch these buttons, and they don't hear me because they're so engulfed in what they're doing. I'm like, just look up for a damn second and just like acknowledge me. That's all we need. That's all we need.
That's all.
So bring the
soapbox. I'm off now.
All right. Yeah, bring this back to 6. The fandom is insane.
Yep.
And actually, it's funny. I was on the 6 Wiki fandom page earlier, and it was like, fun trivia that Brittney Mack and Andrea Mackisset are tied at 4'11" as the shortest cast members. Which, did you know that was in there?
I did not. I'll have you know that I am slightly taller than Andrea, so there's that.
All right. Well, it is a wiki, so I can go in and edit it. I can say, footnote, she says she's slightly taller.
Please do. Thank you so much.
But the social media outpouring, the support at the stage door, like what have you been hearing about the show, and like, is it kind of dying off now that that Broadway's been closed for a while, or have people been sort of like building up, clamoring for this to come back?
Yeah, the queendom, we call them the queendom, is insane. Like it is like nothing I've ever experienced in my whole entire life. And what it is just like support, right? For us, for these women that have been chosen to tell this story, right? And so it's one of those things that I've always said, like, my biggest thing when doing this theater journey and being in this industry is to inspire. And so be careful what you ask for, because it's happening, right? And so you have the opportunity with the queendom. It creates opportunity to be able to say, "Hey, have you thought about this today? Have some of the things that we were just talking about? Have you thought about that? Have you done this today?" Because their generation is very kind of self-consumed, and so what you find is the impact that the show has is that it teaches about selflessness in a way of just supporting each other. That's just kind of like how it starts, right? And it plants that small seed enough to say, hey, like, this is what happens when a bunch of women come together and support each other. So you and your girlfriends at school, when y'all at y'all lockers, instead of being like, oh my God, did you see what Josh did? Like, or like, oh my God, Amanda looks like this. Why don't you take a second and be like, you look cute today. Oh my God, let's go around and tell everybody they look cute today. Let's do it. And we have the opportunity to create those challenges, even if you would, and different things on social media and blah, blah, blah. It has forced me to become more present on social media because I'm allergic. I'm allergic in every single way, but I have to. And so, and again, it's another type of platform. So if you see it that way, then it's a little more better. But like I said, we have young women, young men, older women, older men. This show is so universal that the queendom really kind of reaches and touches everyone, and because the story does, right? And so we have the opportunity to actually make change, because the show is a global phenomenon. It's all over the world. We're in Australia, we're on the high seas, and then we've got the tour, the UK tour, and then we've got the sit down on the West End. We're here. And so what we've learned is what you could really do when you have such a positive show, a show that's fun, that's poppy, that's like, what do they call it? A bop. I learned that. Did I use, don't make fun, I'm trying to do
I'm not making fun of you. I like the term.
Okay. It's a bop. Or if we have a lit performance that night, they will tell us, oh, you were lit tonight. And I was like, okay, on fire? What? When she said lit, they like, Brittney, like, it was good. I'm like, oh, thank you. Or versus being, Brittney, were you okay? Like, how's your knee? I'm like, oh, you saw that? Okay, cool. I'm a little hurt. I'm hurting a little today, but it'll be okay. Okay, well, we support you, teaches you selflessness, to think outside of yourself. Mm-hmm. And they're not like, the queendom is not like how we know music theater fans to be. These aren't like those kids that are fanatics. So it's weird to call them fans because they're adults. They're, seniors. They're like that. Oh, my granddaughter wanted to come see the show, and I've seen it twice, but don't tell her because I didn't bring her. And I'm like, okay, Granny. Don't be out here in these streets. You need to go home. Mm-hmm. So it's fun. It's hard. It's kind of scary sometimes. It's intimidating sometimes, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting to be on and to be present. So I make a choice if I'm on social media that I have to be a very specific kind of way, because they're watching, and if I'm not feeling like, or even some sort of, or depending on what the dial is on my light that day. If it's a little more dim, then Brittany's just gonna call it one, especially right now, But if it's semi-bright to bright, then I'll kind of make an appearance and say hey. And there are certain ladies in the queendom that I do have a little more of a connection to, like Maddie and Rose. They're two young girls that didn't get a chance to see us. They were going to come opening weekend, and they live in Jersey, and they are the sweetest, most funniest girls. They're twins, and like they're just, Maddie loves to wear a blazer and a tie, and I was like, Maddie, do it every day if you want to. You want to know why? Because why not? Yeah, why not? I was like, well, why not? Okay. I was like, all right. And if you don't want to, don't. Yeah. I was like, yeah. So it's little things like that. I met them during our workshop that we did. How to Slay is a self-improvement, self-empowerment workshop that I came up with last year. And using this and being able to encourage young women in whatever way they need. So we started kind of sitting down and we talk about different things, and then we'll start the class from there. So it's very organic and it comes from them. So then it is very specific to what they need. So then when they come out of the class, they've learned something, they're different. So we were able to do that virtually a couple weeks ago, and I had some of the other queens join. It was a lot of fun. And we had a 4-day workshop. It was a blast. We did birthday stuff and we dressed up, and it was a good time. And that's where I met Maddie and Rose. So,
oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is a wonderful spot to move into our closing questions here and wrap up the episode. There's 3 questions I ask everyone to wrap up the episodes. The first one is, what motivates you?
Wow. That's broad. I'm not going to be long-winded, I promise. What motivates me? The hope for change, and the fact that things can change for the better.
All right. And then the next question is, what advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now, starting out down a similar path?
It's so hard. It's so hard. So, that time when you want to be like, this is so hard and my life is just really sucky right now. Now that you've got that out of your system, do it. Shake it off and keep going, because it's worth it. I can't say that it gets easier, because with more success, there is more work that comes with that. Too much is given, much is required. And so if you strive for better and higher, know that there's more work, but it's worth it. So shake off. Cry, scream, don't throw anything, because you don't pay for nothing right now. Your mama pays for it, or your daddy, or your uncle, whoever. But just get through it. And don't be afraid to be open about your feelings. Talk about how you feel. Even if it's to a friend, write it down. However you got to do, get it out, and then keep it moving.
Ooh, I like that a lot. All right, so the last question. This is the hardest one. If you can only see one show for the rest of your life, but you can see it as many times as you want, what would you see?
Oh, wow. Is this original cast?
Anything you'd like.
Oh, yeah, this is hard. It's making my back sweat. Okay, let me think. Oh, man. Wow. Geez, I don't, it can't, just one show, huh? Well, Lady Day is kind of depressing. Like over and over and over again. Memphis.
I like that. All right.
Yeah.
So we can find you on Instagram at BrittMack8, the number 8. You can get more of me at thetheaterpodcast.com. Show your support at thetheaterpodcast.com/Patreon. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at theater_podcast. Please leave a rating and a review. This is edited by Matthew Hendershot and Brittney Mack. Thank you so much for everything. This has been such a fun conversation.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, this was fun. I'm notorious for like going off on tangents, so I'm really sorry. I probably should have told you that before. Reel me in.
I'm a tangent king. I will go there with you. That's what makes the best conversation. It's a real conversation. I love it.
It's a real conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Take a deep breath, make the world a little colorful.